Well, Aiden, it's our 299th episode. By no coincidence, we're not trying to just shoehorn an episode in, but this is a subject I think we're both very passionate about. The Reptilius episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000, Season 11, Episode 1.
Reptilicus.
Whatever. Who cares? You know what? Who gives a shit? I'll just fucking Bjork bomber myself. Make a little YouTube video that people wouldn't want to see. Maybe they would. But anyways, Aiden, what is the plot of Mystery Science Theater 3000, Season 11, Episode 1, Reptilicus, starring Jonah and Crow and Tom Servo and now Gypsy hangs from the ceiling?
Season 11, Episode 1 of Mystery Science Theater 3000 is the introduction to our new host, Jonah. Mystery Science Theater 3000 is a show where the host and his robot friends watch battle movies and riff over them. And in 2017 or 16 or something, 2018, Netflix acquired the rights and decided to make a new season, 2 seasons even, starring a new guy named Jonah, who's a California soy boy. And they watch Reptilicus, which is a Danish monster movie. Yeah, that's the plot of this thing, and we're definitely not doing this so that Barbenheimer can be 300. Anyway.
I called it Boppenheimer since January.
Yeah, but
people change it to Barbenheimer, which is bullshit. It's Boppenheimer.
Barbenheimer has a Wikipedia.
Barbenheimer.
So
I
that's
don't
what
care
we're gonna
what
call it
Wikipedia
for
said.
I'm going to put Barbenheimer in the title because it'll accrue search metrics. Anyway, Connor, what do you think of the state of Mystery Science Theater 3000 in the current day?
Well, we can't really talk about that because neither of us have seen Season 13 since the box set's not out. And I refuse to buy it till the box set's out.
We have seen all of Season 12.
I own almost every episode
11.
of Mystery Science Theater. The episodes that haven't been out on DVD I pirated, and the episodes that are on DVD I own 80-ish% of. I've been watching Mystery Science Theater 3000 since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And there's a charm to it.
Yep.
And Mystery Science Theater 3000 Season 11 sucks my balls. You know what it reminds me of? I'll just tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me of The Disaster Artist. The most disingenuous Hollywood take on some cult shit. Like, The Disaster Artist is when I found The Room insufferable. Because The Room came back to theaters, and I'm like, I could not sit in a screening of The Room and watch people throw spoons at the screen and quote the lines and want to be James Franco. It's cringe. The Disaster Artist book is amazing. The Disaster Artist book is, here's my description. The Joel era is the Disaster Artist book. Mike's is like watching The Room with your friends. And Jonah's is like watching the shitty Disaster Artist movie. You know, you got reading the Disaster Artist book, which is pure Kino, also known as Joel era. You got watching The Room with your friends, which is a little played out, but still okay. It gets the point across and it's fun. And then you got the Disaster Artist movie, which makes me want to Bjork bomber myself. It makes me want to kill myself. And part of it was maybe that when we watched the Disaster Artist in theaters, Granny like put her feet between our seat.
Oh, she was putting them like in my fucking face.
I know, it was fucking disgusting.
Specifically mine.
I know, it was fucking disgusting.
Like she put them up on the seat between us, but she put them directly on mine. It was like tilting her toenails.
It was
in my
unbelievable.
face. Granny was wearing open-toed shoes, and that's not like an insult like some 40-year-old was doing. It was like a 6-year-old who just propped her wrinkly, disgusting feet in my
like she's like 80, bro. And my point is, I've never had a good experience watching it. the next time I watched The Disaster Artist, I was dating a girl, and she just got done fresh off screaming at me for an hour. For God knows what. I didn't deserve it. You can say maybe I deserved it, but I didn't deserve it. This girl was a bitch. And she falls asleep, and I'm just sitting there awkwardly, and I was like, well, I guess I'll watch The Disaster Artist at like 2 volume with the subtitles on so I can understand what's going on. I was fucking pissed. So no, I don't like the Disaster Artist movie, thank you very much. But Mystery Science Theater is like the Disaster Artist when Jonah is there. It's bullshit, it's fake, it's hammy. And also it's not shot in the beautiful city, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, where I live.
That's true.
Mystery Science Theater season 1 through 10 were shot here in Eden
fucked
Prairie,
up?
where I live.
You know what's fucked up?
What?
In the Joel and Mike era, there's a bunch of organic references to Minnesota shit that only people like us would know.
Oh, sure.
Where they're like talking about like local Minneapolis landmarks and shit that nobody would understand. And then the only reference to Minnesota in the entire Joel era is actually in the entire Jonah era is actually in this Reptilicus one where the dinosaur eats some people and he says, and Crow says he's eaten a bunch of Minnesota citizens. None of the people involved in this show have ever been to Minnesota. Felicia Day looks like a human camel and made the shitty country guy gamer girl song and is like the ultimate. Have you never seen Country Guy Gamer Girl? Where Felicia Day sings a country song about how she's totally a cool nerd who should be at Comic-Con and she falls in love with a country boy. She made that in like 2008 before she started banging Joss Whedon and Wesley Crusher. But she's never been to Minnesota.
Banged LeVar Burton and Joss Whedon?
No, Wesley Crusher is Will Wheaton.
Oh, she banged Will Wheaton?
She bangs people who look like Louis C.K. who jack off in front of women. How come all people...
She looks like Dollar Store Emily Blunt.
She looks like a...
I guess you don't call it Dollar Store anymore, you call it Wish Emily Blunt.
She looks like a human camel, but... How come everyone who looks like Louis C.K. jacks off in front of women? Because Joss Whedon got canceled for the same thing.
That's true.
He was like on the set of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
It's the shoulder. It's not just the orange hair, it's the shoulder freckles.
Well, no, it's the balding orange hair.
Balding orange hair with the
you
shoulder.
You got the orange donut.
Pale as Voldemort with shoulder freckles.
You're going to jack off in front of women like Louis C.K. and Josh Whedon.
Right.
But anyway, Felicia Day has never been to Minnesota. Patton Oswalt killed his wife and has never been to Minnesota. Jonah is a fucking trust fund kitty who lives in California and has never been to Minnesota. And I don't know what fucking shitty YouTubers they pick up to impersonate Crow and Tom Servo.
Oh my god, they're such bad impersonators. It's embarrassing.
They're literally, they sound like impersonators. They should have just done...
Here's the thing. Mystery Science
at the point
Theater,
it comes to...
even in Season 0 is... Like, from Season 0 to 10, it's very... questionably funny, but it's charming. Yeah. This is like, please think I'm funny, and please think I'm charming. Well, you know what the most charming thing that Season 11 could have done? Just throw a couple quips in there.
It never stops.
It never stops.
Season 11 and 12 have the same problem.
See, 11 and 12 try to be funny.
Always, yeah.
That's the problem. Mystery Science Theater tried to be funny, kind of, but it was more about just hanging out with the bros. And also, this is so highly produced, it doesn't feel like hanging out with the bros anymore.
No, it's...
Like, Tom, Servo, and Joel or Mike, depending what season it is.
You know what the best
feel like the bros, you know? You feel like you're just hanging out with the bros, making bad jokes about movies that only you guys are going to laugh about, and that's the charm.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. And this is what bothered me the most. You look at the credits for the original Mystery Science Theater, season 1 through 10, and it's like 30 seconds with like 20 people, and those 20 people, like 10 of them are repeats. It's like head writer, Mike. Mike was also the star. Mike also did costumes in this episode. There's fucking charm to that. And then you watch this and it's like Foley artist, assistant Foley artist,
15
makeup
writers.
of the Foley artist. The Foley artist needs to be in makeup. And the assistant of the
15
makeup of the
writers.
Foley artist with the 25 rejected Rick and Morty writers.
Well, the other thing is, there's a couple things that I think are most different. For one, in the Joel and Mike eras, Joel and Mike would write most of it, and there'd be like 2 or 3 other writers.
Right.
But in this show, there's like 15 writers, and so jokes just kind of tonally are all over the place.
But also, it's scattershot. It's like Family Guy where there's 30 jokes a minute. It's not like the old ones where...
A lot of the times in the old ones, there were 3 to 4 minute silences between jokes where they just let the movie speak for itself because it's terrible. And in this one, they constantly feel the need to fill the screen with noise, and then Tom Servo starts floating around when they don't have any jokes, just to have some baby sensory on screen.
Right.
And then Gypsy comes down, and Gypsy's like hanging around and wiggling around, and she doesn't sound like Gypsy anymore because they thought it was offensive, and so they made her sound like a normal person, which isn't funny. Because the joke was that Gypsy was the dog, like she was the pet and she was stupid. But they thought that was offensive because she was named Gypsy, even though every European person I've ever talked to wants to exterminate the Gypsies. And no one likes them. And also, they sing all the fucking time. Like, I know there was some songs that came about from Mystery Science Theater 3000, like the Gamera song and some other stuff.
Well, the Gamera song is just them singing the Gamera song from the movie.
Yeah. And that's why it's funny. And in season 11, episode 1, the Reptilicus one, there's like 7 songs and a rap number. Constant fucking singing. It's insufferable. They never let the movie speak for itself.
Right.
Because these movies can all speak for themselves at times. And obviously, there's a balance to it, because like if you watch the season 0 episodes, there's like 15-minute stretches where no one talks.
Right.
In Mystery Science
Or
Theater
there's the
3000.
first episode where Joel's just straight up eating popcorn.
He's crunching into the microphone. Yeah, that shit's
Well, that's
gross.
charming. I'd rather watch... I would be fine with season 1 through 10 eating popcorn over Jonah Ray's over fucking pretty.
It just never stops. You can't even understand what the
Also, I think it's so much harder to watch the movie.
You can't understand what the movie's about because they never...
Like when I watch season 1 through 10, it's like... Or 0 through 10... It's like I'm sitting there watching the movie, and then occasionally my friend makes a stupid joke.
Yep.
That's what it feels like. And it's not always funny.
A stupid
But
joke
sometimes,
about...
even though it's stupid, you'll just laugh anyways, because it feels like you're hanging out with the bros.
Yeah.
And in this, it's like, Jonah's like making 20 jokes a minute. It's like, there'll be like crucial plot details. There's a balance. It has to be, I don't want to hear Jonah Ray's fucking singing and Gypsy flying through the ceiling and shooting laser beams all over the place. Maybe I'm in the minority that wants to watch the movie, but just watch this crappy movie with the bros, you know?
Yeah.
But this isn't watching the movies with the bros. This is a cringe-inducing...
This is a stand-up comedian.
Stand-up set.
It's a stand-up comedian talking over the whole movie, so you don't understand what's going on, or why, or when. Also, as a proud Minnesotan, I have to say, the lack of actual Minnesota references. I think it's funny when you watch season 0, and Joel is like, have you ever been to Beaufort's on 15th Street? Where you can get the Triple Mac sub? And then Crow says, yeah, I have been to Beaufort's in downtown Eden Prairie. That shit's funny.
Yeah. They deadass shot this show like a mile and a half from where we're recording.
Yeah.
The first 10 seasons were shot like A mile and a half from where we're recording.
In a warehouse a mile and a half from here. And some of the season 0 episodes are sponsored by a
local pizza place.
A local pizza place in Shakopee that still exists.
And we're in delivery range.
We are in delivery.
We could literally talk about this while eating pizza from a place that sponsored Mystery Science Theater Season 0.
Yeah.
So we should be experts based on
Joel and Mike were both Minnesota comedians, and they make jokes about Prince and
Mike went to the church with my ex-girlfriend's mom.
What church did they go to?
I don't know, some one in fucking Bloomington. But Corey's mom, who's elderly, is like, oh, I know about that show. Mike is such a nice boy. Like, okay.
You gotta.
Or maybe it was one of the robots or something, but her elderly ass was telling me about how she went to church with one of them.
I'm sure Mike goes to church in Bloomington. That makes perfect sense.
One of them goes to church because Bloomington's 10 minutes away from here.
Yeah.
Of course, one of them goes to church in Bloomington with Corey's mom.
Yeah. I'll fucking.
Naturally.
Yeah, I mean. The
and you just know everybody.
Show, I don't know.
My
if
current
this
girlfriend's dad is a big fan of Mystery Science Theater.
I don't know if this is clear to people who are watching this, but Mystery Science Theater 3000 started as a public access show out of an Eden Prairie warehouse in the Minneapolis area. So it's
Hopkins.
Very core.
Your P.O. box was in Hopkins.
Yep.
I don't know. Whoever the hell it was driving all around the cities to manage this show.
Well, the thing about Hopkins is
it was shot here.
The vape store I go to is out in Hopkins because they're the only one that carries my coil anymore. And the Hopkins is like 150 houses and 15 fucking streets full of nothing but warehouses.
Right.
Which is it was probably technically shot in Hopkins, but the show was shot maybe like 15 minutes from our house at worst. Yeah. I don't know, the lack of... There's a certain artificialness to the show when it doesn't have that weird Minnesotan culture to it anymore, if I'm being honest. Like, Jonah's never stepped foot in Minnesota. And he can't make all these, especially in the early seasons when they'd make obscure references to like fucking Gophers baseball second baseman from the time and shit.
I know, I don't know if it's that we're local. I think we discovered it because, wasn't it Micah watched it as a kid because Matt or something?
Yeah, Micah and Matt, well Matt watched it because Matt grew up in Minneapolis in the 90s, and so he was watching the show when it was a public access show back in season 0, and became a fan, and then he showed it to Micah eventually, who passed it on to us.
And then we just been watching it since, and occasionally here and there. And recently I've tried to collect all of the seasons. I almost have every episode.
So it's a very, very local tradition for us.
Yeah, it's a local tradition.
Matt had all the seasons on DVD, basically.
Yeah, you got it. The annoying thing is they release them in volumes, which is 4 random episodes.
Yeah. Wow.
So you gotta collect the random episodes, and then you just gotta pirate everything else.
When you have to go through Rhino, it's just kind of the way it is.
Rhino and now Shout Factory.
Yeah,
I don't know
the same shit, but Rhino was doing it first.
Shout Factory's
Shout's
fairly
been better about it.
Shout at least has most of the seasons still out there. They've gotten a couple that were banned later on. They lost the rights. But I have most of the ones that are lost rights. There are 2 that are like $100 I'm going to have to bite the bullet on.
Yeah.
And then maybe 4 or 5 box sets that I don't have yet, but I have probably 30 of the box sets. I just want to watch through most of the episodes I haven't seen yet.
I find it kind of fascinating that Godzilla vs. Megalon
Ibira.
Ibira. Godzilla vs. Megalon was just on every public access channel because after it was shown on American TV,
People just assumed it was...
there was some assumption that it was public domain, and so every public access channel just started showing copies of the movie.
I respect
which
that.
is how it ended up on...
forced it into public domain.
Which is how it ended up on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Right.
Because everyone in America just assumed that Godzilla vs. Megalon was public domain after...
Up to the DVD release by Rhino. Because
Yep.
Rhino released it thinking it was public access.
Yep.
So, Mystery Science Theater Volume 10, as kind of the key feature and theme of the box set, was Godzilla vs. Megalon as the main release.
Yep.
And then Toho's like, we're gonna fucking sue you. And they're like, what'd we do wrong? And they're like, this isn't public access. So then they had to replace it.
Yep.
So 10.2 is the more common. But if you want volume 10, you're gonna have to pay quite a bit more. And that version has Godzilla vs. Megalon. So my cheap ass bought 10.2 and pirated.
Well, it's kind of
Megalon.
crazy that at the same time, like, Godzilla vs. Megalon, because of the public domain misunderstanding, was so common on American television. Like, Godzilla vs. Megalon has largely...
on VHS.
Godzilla vs. Megalon has largely single-handedly ruined the perception of Godzilla in the West up until the last couple of years.
Basically until Legendary. Well, Roland Emmerich fucked up everything, but
Roland Emmerich made things even worse.
it wasn't really till like Godzilla 2014 that the West had some
Most
sort of
people,
understanding of what Godzilla truly is.
like Godzilla, 19,
love it or hate 2014.
1954 had a 1954 had a release at the time on film, and you could see it in theaters. But Megalon was the first widely available movie back in like the 80s and 90s, which definitely colored people's perception of Godzilla as this goofy kids thing. And I love Megalon. I think that's a really fun movie, even though it's super bad. But yeah, that's just an interesting note about the whole situation.
Well, Nicole was telling me the other day she has figures of the Mystery Science Theater characters.
Yeah, she did say that.
Her dad does. I want those figures. I want the figure. I didn't know they made figures. I want the figures.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess this is just.
Well, should we talk about the actual feature they talked about just a little bit?
Yeah.
Reptilicus.
I already
Godzilla
talked about Reptilicus. It's a kaiju movie that takes. It's a Danish kaiju movie. They dig up a dinosaur and it runs around, and all the jokes in the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode are about it being a Godzilla ripoff. It's one of those kaiju movies that Americans made at the time that were like 80% of it takes place in a lab with some guy looking in a microscope, and he says, "These genes could cause a dinosaur to come." And there's like 10 minutes of cool shit, and then it ends. Reptilicus was very okay. I mean, it was what it was. I don't have a lot of thoughts about it. I think Jonah's annoying. As far as it goes, I think Reptilicus could have been a good Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, but Jonah can't carry it. And the movie
It's
itself
a good episode, because the movie is... My favorite Mystery Science Theater episode is where the movie isn't terribly boring. Reptilicus has its boring moments, but it's decent. Oh.
Yeah.
But it's a little boring. There's a lot to make fun of. But it still keeps your interest to an extent if you're like a monster movie fan. And I would have loved to see Joel or Mike riff on it.
Yeah.
Although I've heard season 13 has Joel episodes, and I really hope they're charming. I think there might just be a level of charm to them, even though they're probably overproduced, just like these Jonah episodes. I'm hopeful. So when I finally get around to season 13, when the Shout Factory box set comes out, I really hope.
You didn't.
It's good. Why is that there?
No, me and Paul went to the Samurai Cup. What's
No, the Riff Tracks. Yeah, I went there at the Tiny Theater in Duluth.
Yeah, we went to the.
Yes, I was
on the
there.
top level. I forgot you were there. Yeah, that was fun.
You, me, and Paul went to the Riff Tracks at
I like Riff Tracks enough.
the Tiny Marcus in Duluth.
Riff Tracks kind of misses a little bit of the personality by not having
the robots on the screen.
The gimmick with the theater seats and the skits.
The gimmicks help.
Like, I know, like, looking back at it, people are going to be like, oh, the skits are annoying and they get in the way, but they're charming and cute. And I don't care. Yeah, like
the skits are a bunch of stupid crap in the best way possible.
Yeah. But anyway, as far as it goes, I basically agree with you. I think the movie is decent mystery science fodder. Although I don't like Jonah, I think they talk too much and need to let the movie talk for itself a little bit.
I just think the reboot misses the point of Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
I don't think Jonah would be a terrible, terrible host. I think the writing is overbearing. I mean, that's the biggest problem.
Anyone could be a decent host if they showed proper restraint.
I mean, I couldn't see Ryan Gosling coming out and being like, "Hey boys, I'm the mystery."
Okay, I don't mean anyone.
But there's a certain level of schlubbiness that Jonah achieves the schlubbiness. I understand why they picked him. It's the writing that kills it.
I don't know about the schlubbiness for Joe. Joel looks like a guy you would see working at the Walmart as a fucking cashier, and
exactly.
Mike looks like a guy you would see working as the manager of a fucking Burger King. When it comes to Jonah, he looks like a guy who would spend 15 minutes lecturing you about the benefits of drinking Soylent instead of milk. And he'd be like, I drink Soylent every day. He looks like the fucking main character of Yeek.
I don't even know what words you're using right now.
You know, Yeek.
I don't know what a Yeek is.
It's a video game.
Okay.
Called Yeek. He looks like the average Redditor. And as such, I want to punch him in the face several times. He looks like he would lecture me about why Joe Biden is a good president. I don't like it. You know what Joel looks like he'd lecture me about? Joel looks like he'd lecture me about getting the fuck out of his house because I was staying in his house. Mike looks like he'd lecture me about ordering the fucking chicken nuggets at 11:59 because he wants to go the fuck home. Jonah looks like he'd lecture me about fucking Soylent.
Jonah looks like you'd fuck his whore sister.
I would hang out with Joel.
And he'd be real sad about it.
I would hang out with Mike. Like if they're my age, because obviously they're not my age. But if they're my age, I would hang out with the Joel. I would hang out with the Joel that's in Mystery Science Theater. I'd hang out with the Mike that was in Mystery Science Theater. And I would avoid Jonah like the plague, because I know that he would, like, lecture me all day about the benefits of fucking vegetable burgers, like the Impossible Burger. He'd tell me about how he went to the Burger King, got the Impossible Burger, and ate it with Soylent. how he lets his wife get caught, how his wife runs an OnlyFans. And she fucks a bunch of guys like Adam 22. Jonah's the Adam 22 of fucking Mystery Science Theater 3000.
So Aiden, what did you think of season 11, episode 1, The Reptilicus?
I don't like Jonah very much. Yeah, Connor, what do you think of the thing?
I also don't like Jonah that much, but the episode was okay, mostly because I think the movie was really good mystery science fodder.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time on our 300th episode, which is a mystery double feature of movies that came out this week. 2 movies came out this week, and we're going to do a mystery double feature for our 300th episode of Drunvkiew. We're on Drunvkiew episode 300, and how does it feel to have made 300 of these? It started with humble beginnings where I would just play Titanfall while we talked about movies.
That was a new movie chat. That doesn't count.
Yeah, they count as Drunvkiews now because we changed the name retroactively.
Yeah, that's true.
If we're at the 300th episode,
we've come a long way from our
me smoking bongs in the basement.
We've come a long way from our
Basement
70-minute videos that start with a 4-minute vape trick compilation, and then have 5 minutes of you ripping the bong before we laugh about the dark universe. And now we make reasonably length videos that have almost no editing put into them. For
How in the fuck did we go from 70 minutes to 17? The format has really changed. I don't even know if the format's never changed. It's always been introduction, plot. What did you think? What did you think? Would you recommend? Would you recommend?
We're untalented garbage RLM. It's half in the bag, but with shit production
Incredibly
value.
lazy with a crap ass fucking rarely centered camera, a couch. We're vaping and just getting hammered.
We don't
the whole
vape
time.
anymore. I mean, I could.
We occasionally vape. Vape isn't unheard of in our videos. You don't sit like this in a professionally made video. Like, I've been sitting like this the whole last time.
I've been sitting up. I'm a good boy.
I'm drunk, bro. I'm not about to sit up.
I'm drunk, too.
Drunvkiew for a reason.
I mean, we don't even get drunk for most of these anymore.
Yeah, some of these. So I'm drunk.
It's like a 50-50.
If I'm home, there's like a 60% chance I'm drunk if I'm not at work. It's not like the old days.
Anyway, I guess the grand conclusion of this is fuck Jonah. Fuck Netflix. Drunvkiew forever and Barbenheimer soon.
Boppenheimer.
And starting at episode
I've been calling
300,
it
we're bringing
Boppenheimer.
vaping back.
Yep. The grand return. Why not? Who cares?